Welcome to the Her Story Circle podcast, the podcast that brings you the extraordinary tales of everyday women who are changing the world. I'm your host, Gertrude Mache, and I'd like to acknowledge traditional custodians of the land on which we meet today. I also like to pay my respects to elders, past, present, and emerging. Every week, we dive into the lives, challenges, and triumphs of women from all four corners of the globe. We're here to inspire, enlighten, and connect, sharing stories that uplift and empower. So grab a cup of coffee, settle in, and join us as we explore the incredible journeys of women shaping our future. This is Her Story, where every woman's voice matters. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Her Story Circle. This is Gertrude Mache in beautiful Melbourne, Australia. And today I am blessed with yet another amazing young woman. Welcome, welcome, welcome to our tribe. Please tell everybody your full name, where you're based, and share your story with us today.
Hello, thank you so much, Gertrude, for this beautiful, beautiful experience. My name is Love Gertrude Mukunga. Funny enough, we have the same name, just mine is with a J and yours is with a G. That's my middle name. I'm based in Melbourne. I live on the western side of Melbourne. I am 23 years old. I currently work in real estate. I've been working in real estate for about 4 years. I was born in Kenya, but I'm originally from Congo. Both my parents are from Congo. They immigrated to Kenya just before I was born. And that's where my story started, in Kenya. So I come from a really big family. I have 11 siblings. So there's 11 of us all in total. There is 8 girls and 3 boys. We had 9 girls and 3 boys, but one of my sisters passed away back home. Now we all currently live in Australia. Dad lives in New South Wales. They've separated quite a while ago, and we all live here in Melbourne with Mum. My story started out from Kenya, where I was born. So I was born as my parents immigrated to Kenya just before I was born. At the time, it was during the war that was happening in Congo. So they fled at that time. They had about before me there were I'm the 7th, so they had 6 other kids. So 6 kids before me. So so that's where it started. I was born and did schooling till year 3 back in Kenya. It was very difficult, I gotta say, living in a different country, because also being Congolese, there's also that Congolese Kenyan. There's also that like, as Africans, most of us know, there's also discrimination within our own community. So it was very difficult at the time, for us trying to kind of, emerge and try to blend in at the time. So we lived in Kenya up until I was 8 years old. So for about 8 years, and then we came to Australia. We first moved to Dorigo in New South Wales. It's a very, very small town. And how we were able to get to Australia, we were sponsored by a church. So one of the church members, his name was Peter Allen. There was this organization that was happening both in Australia, in Kenya, and it was kind of like sponsoring. So they would send things and stuff. So at the time, our family were lucky enough to be, Mom worked super, super hard to kind of get us that spotlight whilst we were still in Kenya. So that's how we were able to come from Kenya to Australia, and we moved to Dorigo just when I was 8. We lived there for about 2 years in Dorigo. I have a major love and hate relationship with Dorigo, because when we first moved, I was super, super young. My English was my English was not there, and it was very difficult for me at the time to just kind of like merge, because where we came from in Kenya and Dorigo was completely different. The schooling system was different, just like everybody else. It's super difficult to, try and kind of get used to a new town, a new country to be exact. So we stayed in Dorigo for about 2 years, and then we moved to Coffs Harbour, which is 2 hours away from Dorigo. Yeah, so we moved to Coffs Harbour because at that time my parents, Dorigo was super super small. It only had about 100 people at the time, one high school, one primary school, and it would be good for like a small family, but there was too many of us, and mom kind of wanted us to get a little bit more opportunities than what we had in Dorigo. So we moved to Coffs Harbour, and whilst we were in Coffs Harbour, those, the family started to change a little bit. My older sister got married. My second older sister went to university. And then we stayed in, so it was just a few of us left. And at the time, mom had two of my younger siblings. So so two of my younger siblings, she had Judy and Joy here in Australia. So yeah, from Kosaba, we stayed there for about 3 years. On top of that, then mom and dad separated. Um, as you know, we come from a very spiritual background. My dad was a pastor whilst we were still in Congo, and even when we came to Australia. So their separation was a big thing when it came to the family. And then on top of the fact that there was so many of us, and during their separation time, that was probably the times where I started to kind of realize that I kind of started to hate the fact that we moved out of the country, to be exact. I started to hate the fact that we were in a foreign country, because I felt like I started to see how everything, when it comes to the finance, how everything started to change both of my parents at a very young age. So so mom and dad broke up. At the time, it was a really bad breakup. It took us, so my dad fled to Congo whilst they were still going through their divorce. And so the court gave us 2 days and a half, because at that time the restriction towards my mom and my dad was mom couldn't leave Coffs Harbour with us to come to Melbourne, where my older sister was based at the time. So they gave my mom and us 2 days and a half to pack our stuff and leave. If not, we have to stay in Coffs. So so the divorce can continue happening. So at the time, we packed our stuff up in 2 days. Thank God we had a great church that we were going to at the time, and they helped both mom and us. And just even before the whole having to get up and leave, the court made us, it's very common. So the court made us choose which parent we would prefer to go with at the time. So it was either mom or dad. And from then on, everybody, of course, we chose mom, because mom has always been, like later on to the story, I'll explain exactly why we all chose mom, but mom has always been that safe spot for all of us. So at the time, we all went with mom and packed our stuff within the 2 days, and we were able to leave Coffs Harbour and come to Melbourne. But when we came to Melbourne, because it was such a short notice, we were not prepared. We didn't have anything, no schooling, no accommodation. My older sister was living in Melbourne with her husband and her 1-year-old child, and they were living in the government housing, the one that's based in Collingwood. If you live in Melbourne, you know. So we went and joined them in the small apartment. It was a 3-bedroom. It was a 3-bedroom high rise, and we kind of all splitted the room with like all the girls, the boys, and a room from mom at the time. And we stayed there for about at my sister's house. We stayed there for about 2 years and a half, which was some of the darkest time of our lives. It was a lot of good and bad times, but we just went through a lot of struggle at the time. For mom being a single mom, trying to look for schools, her English was still pretty bad, because she never had the chance to kind of yeah, learn her English as she, because she really focused a lot more on us at the time. So from then on, whilst we were still in the government housing, we were blessed to get our own little apartment in the government housing, and they gave us a high rise just not too far from where my sister was living, and we stayed there for about 4 years at the time. But within the 4 years, mom really tried. She worked a lot. We all worked. We all tried to save up to try and get ourselves outside of the government housing. And since during that time, there was a lot of youth crime going on, and most of us were in high school, because me and my siblings were all mostly about 2 years apart. So we're pretty close in age. Some of us have 9-month age gap. We're all very, very much close in age. So at the time, we were able to, in 2015, mom was able to find a land at the time, and from then on, she built a 5-bedroom house that was able for us. It was like a mansion. It was for like, I remember just the first day I went to see the house after it was built. I was like, is this really us? Because from ever since I was born in Kenya, because I was born as an immigrant in Kenya myself. So at the time, everywhere we've ever lived was always a really, really small, tight place. So us having a 5-bedroom was just incredible for us at the time. So we moved into the 5-bedroom with mom, and we kind of settled in. It was in Melton, not too far from everywhere else. At the time, mom was the only one that was driving, so she would do all the pickups and the drops, and also try to go to work at the same time, which she's incredible for. And till this day, I just look at what she's done for us, and I'm like, I pray that I'm even just a quarter of the woman she is. And from then on, at the time, I did really bad in my last year of school when I was in Melton. At the time, I was, because I had that I had that feeling of never fitting in everywhere I go, because we moved a lot. We moved schools a lot in our, like, in my life. So I've been to 4 different high schools and 6 different primary schools. So I've never had that chance to kind of sit and settle. In my life, it always feels like it's a race. Like, I don't know what's coming next. So at that time, when we were in Melton, it was, year 12. I just moved from one high school to another high school at the time. Everything felt a little bit too much. I was really struggling with my schooling at the time, and I ended up failing year 12. Just, it was halfway through year 12, and I ended up failing. It was I honestly thought at the time that that's it, my life is over. I disappointed my mom. I felt like I disappointed her so much. And especially at the time, like all my other siblings, nobody's ever failed school. Nobody's ever failed, especially year 12. So I felt like that was the beginning of my downfall. But and then after that, I went to I started working, because my main reason of me failing and missing school is because I'd prefer to go to work than to go to school, because I felt like school was so slow. I was like, oh my gosh, like, I just want to get to where I wanted the money. I wanted to get to where the money was at. So yeah,
So
those are
let's
my
talk a little bit now about your profession.
yeah.
You've lived an incredible life. A lot of people don't realize how challenging it is to immigrate to one country, let alone 3, 4, 5, 6 times.
Yeah.
You're starting, you're stopping, you're starting, you're stopping. There's challenges along the way. Now, I would love you to talk us through your journey in property management and leasing industry and what motivated you to enter this field. Additionally, how has receiving the 2018 Melton City Council Leadership Award influenced your professional outlook?
Yep. So I got the 2015 Melton Youth Award whilst I was still in school at the time. I am a lover. I love music. I love dancing. So at the time, that was my thing. And I love women. I love groups of women. I love, just because I was born with so many sisters. So I just love to see girls, like women, just together. So at the time, there was no there was nothing going on in the high school that I was going on. There was nothing entertaining. So I got a lot of the girls together and I was like, hey, why don't we create a dance group? Like, let's, we all love to dance. Let's do this. So that's how we began. And we started, we were kind of the entertainment of the school at the time, performing at every little event that was happening at school. And I didn't do it to kind of get recognition. That was never my thing at the time. But one of the teachers at school, she was she loved that idea. So she nominated me outside of school for the Melton City Council award. And the way she told me was one time, it was after school, and she's like, oh love, what are you doing in this weekend? And I was like, miss, I'm not doing anything, I don't have a job at the time. I was just still a little bit I was still young. So I was like to her, miss, I'm not doing anything. She's like, well, I'm great, because I nominated you for this and this, and you're getting, you need to show up and all that. So I attended the event, and from then on, that's when I met the mayor at the time, and I got the award from Melton City Council. And that's the day that I felt a big gate open in my heart. I was like, wow, like it really showed me that your work does not go to waste. There's always there's always a reward, and sometimes the reward might not even be a physical thing, but just that recognition to see everybody, So
It
that
makes
was
a difference.
yeah, that made a big difference for me from then on. And how I got into real estate is when I finished high school, because I failed my high school at the time, and I was so devastated. I wasn't able to go to uni like everybody else at the time, but I've always had passion for property and real estate because of the lack of. I've always lived in a very tight niche places with my family.
Mm.
So I've always admired big spaces. I've always admired, the mansions and all those, just anything to do with property. I've always loved, because my greatest wish was to always kind of see the world from the other side in. I've already seen, I guess, the lowest that I've seen. So I wanted to see, what's next. Yeah, the other side. So from then on, how I got the job, I actually emailed, spammed, because at the time I was just starting coming out of high school, but I loved LinkedIn. I found out about LinkedIn whilst I was just scrolling on Facebook. So I was like, oh my gosh, there's another app for for professional people. That's what I thought at the time, being the age I was at, because I got into real estate when I was about just 18,
Oh,
about
wow.
10,
Started early.
yeah, so I emailed my director at the time, and I spammed him, I emailed him, I texted him on LinkedIn. I was like, hey, I'm just finishing high school. I've always wanted to be in real estate. I don't know anything, but I'm willing to learn. Like I'm really, really eager to learn. And he was like, okay, first of all, who are you? Why are you spamming me? And second of all, he's like, okay, come for a job interview on this day, and
Right.
we'll see where we'll go from there. So I attended the job interview at the time, and me and him clicked pretty well. And he was like, look, love, I know you don't have much experience, but I'm willing to take you in, but you have to give me your all at the time. And I was like, yep, perfect, that's easy for me. So I did that, and ever since then, that's how I started. I started off at Biggin and Scott, and I
Yeah.
was his personal assistant at first, and then
Mhm.
I moved on into I've done quite a few different roles in real estate. At the
Mm.
time, I've done the leasing aspect of property management. I've even tried to do my own sales at the time, and
Mm.
right now, I'm currently working. I work in Melbourne City currently for another just a little bit smaller boutique in the city.
Mhm.
I'm doing a PM team administration because I'm also studying on the side. I study project management on the side.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I also work. Yeah, and I also have another full. So I work two full-time jobs. I work real estate 9 to 5, and then I do concierge from 11 to 7 a.m. But yeah, 5 days a week each.
I love it.
Mhm.
Now, let's talk a little bit about your all women Christian community group. Building a small all women Christian community group is an inspiring endeavor. What motivated you to start this group? And how do you see it impacting your professional and personal life?
Yep. So I started the Christian Women Group just last year. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I was going through, as a being a young woman, there's a lot of things happening at this time. It's so easy. I come from a very spiritual family. My dad was a pastor, like I said mentioned before. But with time, started to realize how my family started to drift away from God a lot of the times. We were not really going to church, and I started to feel like I was missing something, like a part of me wasn't missing. And every single thing I touched at the time, I felt like nothing was really working out. And with my circle, the people that I had around me, which I love, my dear friends that I met in high school, but I really felt there was, even in my friendships, there was a lot missing at the time. There was times when I was lonely and I just wanted someone to pray over me, but it was a bit difficult because I also didn't have that confidence to go and ask someone, because we never built that relationship. And so with the time, last year, I took a long period of work because I was really feeling low at the time, and I was praying to God and I was asking God. I was like, God, please send me like a group of women. I just want to be in a space of women who can pray for me, who can do this and this for me. And I had my list of what I wanted. And with time, I just felt like, with time, I felt like God was telling me, why don't you do it? Why don't you do it? Every sermon I was watching, every um Christian podcast I was hearing, it was all about sometimes you are the door, sometimes you have to do it. And I was like, at the time, because I wasn't used to praying a lot. I did join a church about 2 years ago that I go just by myself, with my, with the community, of course, but it's a very small knit church. So I was always also really shy at church. I don't really speak much. I'm usually at the back. So even hearing that, I was like, oh, like, what do you mean? Why me? So, and then one time I just went to sleep like normal, and I couldn't sleep until three, like I couldn't sleep. It was 3 a.m. And I went on my knees. I just went on my knees and I prayed, and I was like, God, what's going, like, I'm struggling with sleep and everything. And then I read my Bible, and from then on that night, I felt like God spoke to me and told me, love, it's you. Like this
Yeah.
is your way, this is your journey. And from then on, that's when the next day I didn't know exactly how it was gonna go, what was gonna happen. And from then on, that's where I
Just
started in the group. Yeah, and so I named it My Sisters in Christ. That's what I felt in my heart, because I felt like that's one thing I was missing. And coming from a big family of sisters, and I say this a lot of the times, I have 7 incredible sisters, and
mm,
I have many, many friends, but I felt like there was just that. And, I also call them my sisters in Christ because they are my sisters in Christ. But I felt like there was just that one thing that was missing. And it's just that group of women, group of girls that we can kind of get together. And it went on from there. And from then on, we've had 3 different events last year. We had a brunch. We did a big hike. We all got up at 7 a.m. We went to the Denilong 1,000 steps, and we walked past through, the all the 1,000 steps. It was beautiful. And then we had
wow,
one more event for Christmas, and we're currently working on another event for March.
that's amazing. So, leadership seems to be a significant part of your career and personal achievements. How do you define effective leadership? And can you share how you apply these principles in managing your community group and professional roles?
Yep. Leadership, coming from a big family, it's always been something that's installed in me, when it comes, like, just learning how to live and love people on an everyday basis. Because not one thing I've definitely realized, especially even in leadership, that not everybody is the same. And I think even just naturally, I was born with the gift of like understanding. I really try to put myself in the positions of people. And so yeah, so that's how the kind of the leadership role worked out for me, even in my own personal life. When it comes to my friendships, when it comes to even my work, I feel like I'm able to, because I also I understand that aspect of leadership. I'm also able to, I communicate pretty well with my like my bosses at work, and even just the owners, because I deal with a lot of homeowner. So a lot of the times it's, yeah, like the communication that I learned from that
Yeah.
aspect really helped me a lot in my everyday life, in my work, yeah, in everything I do, my daily life.
Communication is everything.
Yeah,
So, you've expressed a keen interest in connecting with like minded professionals.
yeah.
What strategies do you employ in building meaningful professional connections? And how have these relationships influenced your career?
So one of my main thing, the strategy that I've used and it's helped me out a lot, especially it's using social media.
Mhm.
Yeah, at this time I really we live in a world where social media, as much as at first we all did not accept it and a lot of us didn't really like it, but I've come to learn that if you work social media well enough, it will work in your favor. Um,
Yes.
Definitely, like where I'm at today, it's just with the connection, reaching out, trying
Mhm.
to like I love attending summits, women gathering, anything to do with even like I do a lot of online studies and they have the video calls, and that's how I use social media to kind of help me with my career and connect with other people.
The
Mm-hmm.
technology is there to definitely help do that.
100%.
My last question for you is,
Mm-hmm.
looking forward, what are your aspirations both in your professional career and your community building efforts?
Mm-hmm.
And are there specific milestones or objectives you're aiming to achieve in the near future?
Oh yes, definitely. My right now, because I currently work the two jobs and I study. So I study project management, and the reason why I chose to study project management is because I want me in the next 10 years to be able to build like my own construction business back home. That's always been my dream. To kind of something that would help not just Congo, not just Kenya, but Africa in general.
Mhm.
And also, like I want to kind of build a space where I would also be able to educate them about construction in the way, in in the more modern way, kind of like the way I've learned in the Western side. That's
Okay.
number one. And with my currently right now with because I work the two jobs, my goal with I'm currently saving. I'm trying to save up to it's a lot, but 100K this year. That's been my goal, and I believe I can definitely do it. I did try last year, and this year I realized I can definitely do it. So I want to start off from there on, and my studies are 100% online. So whilst I'm doing my concierge job, I'm usually when I have my free time, I'm usually studying in between those times too. So yeah, in the future I'm hoping to, in the next 10 years, I'm hoping to be able to kind of gain as much knowledge as I can and take what I've learned and my connections and go and build an empire back home. And with everything that I'm trying to save, to kind of put it in places where they'll be able to grow back and what yeah watch it, like, yeah, nourish
And grow.
and
Well,
grow. Yeah.
I will be here cheering you on the sidelines. I know you can do it. Your determination comes through so, so clearly. And I'm
Mhm.
really excited that you're going to be one of our speakers at our summit on the 15th and 17th of March for International Women's Month. Thank you so much for saying yes and gracing us with your presence there as
Thank you
well.
so much for this opportunity.
So don't go away.
I
Thank you,
definitely
everybody, for tuning in today. The Her Story Circle is attracting some phenomenal young women of all ages, sharing their stories to uplift, inspire, and energize you. So tune in again tomorrow when I interview yet another amazing guest. In the meantime, have a fantastic day, morning, or evening, wherever you are in the world, and bye for now. Thank you for tuning into the Her Story Circle podcast. I hope today's story has inspired you to believe in the power of our stories and the difference you can make in the world when you use your voice. I'm Gertrude Mache, and it's been an honor to share this space with you, where voices from all walks of life come together to weave a rich tapestry of diverse perspectives. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review our podcast to help us share these stories with more listeners. Follow us on social media by looking for the Her Story Circle podcast for more updates. And join us tomorrow for another episode filled with courage, resilience, and empowerment. Remember, your story matters, and together we're building a stronger, more inclusive world. Until next time, keep making her